Hello everyone and welcome to my 7 a.m. live stream. We are working on 10.10 today. And so 10.10, yesterday, the last live stream, I added these better looking pickers, these little emoji pieces of the different block shapes. They look like Tetris blocks. I have more shapes than Tetris blocks, but and so what we want to have happen, what our goal is the user should be able to change these emojis. So when the user comes and they click on this guy, they should be able to pick a different emoji or even a letter. Like if I pick C, you can see it all turns into C. And what I did last night in between the streams was I wanted to see if I did an experiment to prove I could open up the keyboard on iOS, which is my target platform. Since I'm using emojis, what I need to do is when I want to present the user the ability to pick a different emojis, I need to show that keyboard on the screen and let them pick whatever. And so here I have iPhone X simulator and I have an iPhone XR simulator. I don't really need both. I personally have an X, so that's what I was using, but simulator's default opens up the newest. And so, so if I go in here to the Emoji Picker, and so when the user taps on this, when I was debugging this, I saw this interesting thing I think you might want to see. Click on this, I get my pop-up keyboard just like I want. I'll make this whatever I want. There we go. If you go over here to this other one, and do the same thing. I'll refresh the page to prove it's clean, right? And I'll do the same thing here. And you can see the keyboard didn't pop up in this one. And if you look down here in the bottom, you'll see this, like the top of a keyboard. And this is the default with the iOS simulators if you've never seen this before. You can hit done to dismiss that just like normal. But what's happening here is it's not showing you the on-screen keyboard. So this keyboard, toggle software keyboard, if you click that, right, and then I do it, there's the full keyboard. So basically the default is to not have that keyboard. So you click and you just get this little bar. And then you can use your real keyboard. And if you're, a developer, that might be what you want, depending on your needs. So you can see I can change ROS, right? I can change these emojis to be whatever I want. And so that part works. Awesome. Now, of course, it doesn't look right. Like when I click, you get this little box over here, and if you see over here on this little screen, this box is still there. That's because like if I just move, it's like done, and so what we want to do, if possible, the user should never even see that little input box, if possible, right? To them, they're changing the piece, but the browser puts a couple rules on us because it doesn't want software just spamming opening your keyboard, right? If a virus could just open your keyboard whenever it wanted, a page that was hijacked, you could be going to type in something and it just pops open a keyboard and suddenly you're typing in the keyboard. That would suck. So in order to do this, we have to have two things. One, or three things, I guess. One is we can only try to open the keyboard. So the way to open a keyboard, let's start with that, is this focus. So if you call focus, fire the focus event on an input, it gets focus. On a desktop, that means the user can start typing right away. On a mobile, that means you can pop open the virtual keyboard. But it'll only pop open the virtual keyboard if we do it from a click event, because it has to be user initiated, and if it's visible. So if we have this, so if I change this here and I go, okay, we're not going to display the block, and then I'll rebuild using Webpack. go back to my simulator here, refresh, click it. Oh, sorry. The simulators are kind of annoying in that they don't refresh cache like you may expect. Yeah, so that's that simulator. So if you, say you're a mobile developer and you want to work on iOS or devices through the simulator, you're like, how do I debug this page, you know? The way you do that is you go to Safari, you go to develop, and you can see your simulators here. So my iPhone X and my iPhone XR, if I had any tabs open in my Safari browser, they would show here. If my phone was plugged in, it would show here. And so here, we'll go to iPhone X, because it's the one we're playing with. And now that I have this open, it won't keep my cache. And you can see now when I click, nothing happens. Nothing's happening because we changed that input element to not display. So so this is the pause menu. I know. Things have changed a lot since when things were originally named here. So if I go to this input, right, it's display none. Let's say I go take that display none off of it, right? So you see it there. They're all there. And then I click, there's my keyboard. So what I just proved was that the browser is requiring the input field to be visible to the user, or at least not display none. I didn't test opacity because it doesn't really matter. This is fine. I don't care. I can work with this, no problem. So let's do it. Let's stop talking about it and let's actually do some stuff. So there's a couple things I want to fix. One of the things you might have noticed is as I click, each one of these has its own little input. And that was fine early in the prototype because I was using the input as also its display. But now I don't need 6 inputs. I only need 1 input because you can only change 1 emoji at a time. So first on the list is to change that. And so so here is my, I really honestly don't like the way this looks. So we have our div. Okay, so we have our div, and we have unordered list because that's what I had. And our list does a list item, and our list item has the grid and the input. So we still need to capture that, be able to recover this index, right? Because this index tells us which of the emojis, which of the pieces you clicked, right? Which color you clicked. I'm using index because it matches the piece index. So let's go ahead and take that first. Let's keep doing what I'm doing. And let's just put it somewhere where we can get it. Bam. We'll put it on the list item. And so when we handle our event, we'll just pull it off the list item instead of the input. Easy peasy. And you can see here where we go piece. The color thing allows quite a bit of expandability, which is why it's like piece list index instead of like piece index or piece list index or something like that. But that's okay. But that index, right? This index here is this index. Okay, so now what we want to do, we don't need a max length on this anymore because the user is not really going to see it. And we need to put this somewhere else. For the moment, let's just stick it up here. It doesn't matter. Okay, so what we've done is we're only going to render one of these inputs now instead of 6. And we move the index to the list item instead of the input. And so we look down here at the handle event. So handle event is now going to be broken because we've made these changes. Right, this click looks for the closest parent. Oh, maybe not, because who was using the index? If input, okay, switch type. Oh yeah, see, so here's where it's broken. And because this target, right, target does not equal the emoji input break, so this is our input, so this is going to be broken, which is cool. Oops, I don't want to break. So what we actually need to do is we need to get the parent. And you know what? If both of them need the parent, he needs the parent, he needs the parent, let's just yank the parent up, huh? Bam. So our parent's always going to be the list item for our emojis, since our emojis are always displayed in a list, even though they don't look like they're lists. They're still lists. And okay, so our parent's always going to be that. And so then here what we can do is we can also piece index equals, this is dangerous. I shouldn't do this. Because what if this doesn't exist, right? What if L parent doesn't exist? But what I can do target, let's see what L parent is too. Console.log. I just want to confirm. I just like confirming what I suspect. This would now be that piece index. You don't care. He doesn't care about the piece index at all. And I don't know that we care about any clicks that aren't on LIs. We might. I don't know yet. Probably not, actually, because LI is really our main structure. No, because the input wouldn't be a click on an LI dot. But our parent would be an LI. No. No, the input's parent is not an LI. But the target clicked on will be. So anyway, let's stop yabbering and try it. Let's see what we actually get. Refresh. Cool. So there's our one input, just like we thought. Click, doesn't work, right? Can't read property style of null. Calling focus null. Sorry. So I clicked. We can see our L parent is null here. So if I click out here, my parent random click. That's funny. Oh yeah, because it was just like anything random. And so that's my warning. And yeah, so I have here. These did type in here, right? Our parent's going to be null. So obviously, checking that we have an li parent is not something everybody does. So really, we just want to fix the few things we have. And so one, like here, L input is not going to be a child of, the parent anymore. So let's go ahead and fix him up too. Const. And since he's always going to be the same thing, stat query selector and input emoji. There we go. And there's our warning. If it's not on the parent, it's a random click, right? Cool. We'll call focus, blah, blah, blah. Then the unhandle event, which we're not doing. now that we're always going to get our input and we can focus on the input wherever it is, let's try it again. I don't know why my build times are suddenly so long. Cool, so I click this, we got our input, type letter, and cannot read data set of null. Cool, so we got much farther, right? Double click, that got focus, and we just, have this little, our L parent didn't have a data set of null, or didn't have data set, right? So what is our L parent? Is it what I think it is? Let's try something else. L parent. So yeah, that's our problem. L parent's null. So let's see, let's fix that. So who are we? Oh, well, we're the emoji input. Oh yeah, well, duh. Of course. So, what do? So here's the problem, right? When the input is happening, right here, right? When the input is happening, the input is not in any specific element anymore. So I can't simply look up the tree and find its parent and ask its parent what its ID is. So what I need to do, and so one of the things about the emoji picker is you can only change one emoji at a time. This would change if we supported multiple emoji, but we don't. You can only change one piece at a time. So what we need to do is when we click, we need to save that index so that when the user does the input, we can go ahead and use that value, use that index, and yeah, and then we can clear it once we set it, because, well, we wouldn't even need to clear it because on the blur we can get rid of the input. Cool. So let's do that. Well, they can only have one character, so we can just clear it right away. Okay. So let's do it. So if they click on somebody that doesn't have an li parent, so he doesn't even need that, right? So our little parent isn't even part of that anymore. So closest, we get a li. If you click somewhere that's not the li, I'm just going to ignore the click, and then we can get the piece index, and then where do we store it, right? So this is a component, the emoji picker, and so there's two places you could store this information. You could store it in the application state with the rest of the game data, or you could store it internally in the component. And when you need to make that decision, you have to think about some things like with a component. So this state, does this state affect the used for starting up the component? Like, would I use this this property, so this index, when I'm initially rendering the element? Does that make sense? And for the index, no, because it's something that only happens after the users interacted with the component. The users clicked, and in clicking picked a block that they want to change. And so, it doesn't make sense to start the emoji picker with an index already selected, because I can't start the app with a keyboard open. The browser's just not going to let me do that. So I have a hard requirement there, and it wouldn't make much sense, I think, from a user experience point of view either. So let's go ahead and store it on the component state, since the application, the world, the game, doesn't need to know this is even a thing, really. This is just internal to the component and how the component operates. So we'll just go ahead and I always like to give, declare variables and stuff up here to make it easier. And if you're from kind of places I'm from, -1 means no value. Like a find or a search, it returns -1 if there is none. And then we'll go back here. Okay. So okay, cool. I guess I could have called it selected or active index too. That would have been fine. So let's try it. I think that works. I don't know. Let's find out if it works. Does it work? I feel like Mr. Peanut Butter when I say that. All right. So let's go back. Oh, parent is not defined. Oh yeah. That's right. We removed it. We don't need it up there anymore. Cool. And build. Why is that taking so long? That's new. It didn't used to always take that long. Okay, refresh. Oh. Parent. Oh, data set. Index. Oh, I should convert that back to a number. It won't matter because it won't matter because of type conversion in JavaScript, so it's fine. That's coming back as a string, and I'm just using it directly as the index because indexes are always strings. So ends up being a string either way. Cool. So we still have a bug here, obviously. It isn't clear. So hi. That's not what we want. Cool, but we're closer. Much closer. So we just have a few more problems. We have the correct piece is changing, right? If I click this block, he is the one that changes when I type. So that works. Now the only problem is once you type one letter, I don't want you to type anymore. I want the input. Well, eventually the inputs, hopefully you won't even see. I'll hide that. But I also want it to blur and, well, yeah, actually just that, right? Just to blur. Well, let's just do that. Let's just blur it. Make build. That's still a really high build time. I don't have that much code. Okay. Ta-da, blurred. Cool. I also probably want to clear it. Oh, actually. I'm using target in here, right? Which worked, as you saw. but I'm switching it to input just to be clear to future self. Because target class list. Yeah. So that first if is just to make sure we are on the emoji. We are actually editing emoji. But and as you saw, I could use target throughout. But using L input makes it more obvious what I'm doing, and if I'm like grepping through the code or trying to see where I'm using L input, this will actually show up. Whereas if I use target, I'll miss that one because I won't know at a glance without being really like looking at the code that target in that context refers to L element, and it always refers to L element in that context because I have a filter right here to make sure it always equals L element. So it's a lot clearer to feature self. Nice. It cleared, my blur happened. Let's try adding an emoji. Ta-da! Let's try this one. Nice. Look at that. Awesome. So now the next thing we'll just be getting rid of this little input. Let's do something about that. There's the classic trick. I call it classic trick because if you're a front-end engineer, you have just guessed right about what I'm about to do. Where you do something like you go, margin left negative 10,000 pixels. Like I said, if you're a front-end engineer, you probably guessed I was about to do that. That's the classic. Let's see if the classic still works. Boom, classic worked. And if I bring that open, look at that. So yeah, the classic way to hide it. If the browser won't let you use undefined, am I gonna hide it that way? Maybe. Maybe. Let's just, why not? Let's just do that for now. Okay, we have our pause. And the input emoji, right? Yeah, input emoji, cool. Negative 100 view width. Maybe that should be 200%. 200% of the view width. Okay. And rerun. And look at that. All right, now we have to try mobile, of course, since that's our bread and butter. Let's go ahead and refresh that through the console so I know that's still working. And oh, look at that. Nice. Oh, look at that. It's beautiful. Beautiful. Okay, it is 7:30. Thank you for joining me for 7 a.m. code. And we did something pretty cool. Look at that. In 2 sessions, so an hour, we went from a really ugly like list thing to popping open a keyboard and having these nice like pieces we could look at and change. So thanks for joining and have a wonderful day.